Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Nice to see everyone. Dane and Joe and Eileen and Mona, Sherry, Eleanor, Donna, Alicia, Jen, Melanie. Very neat that so many people are here. Thanks for coming on such an odd day. My son's here in town visiting me from the United States, so I've been out and about trying to spend time with him and work. And, this is a piece of the balance thing that's coming up for all of us. What is balance? So I've got some really interesting, very vulnerable personal pieces to share with you that will help us to get on the right track right now. And for all of you, of course, who are going through stuff the past few days, check out what's happening with the sun. We just got 7 M class flares back to back. That's pretty wild. Only 2 of them released what's called a coronal mass ejection, but these ejections can actually cause a lot of different disruption. So if people feel touchy and grumpy, or worse, there's heart palpitations and mental instability, that can often be why. So I want you to keep an eye on the sun. Be very conscious of how important our star really is to our experiences. And that is part of what we call galactic anthropology. How does the galaxy, how does the solar system affect humanity and our culture? Everything affects culture. Culture is a living thing. You can watch culture move and change every single day. You are in a human body, and the human body creates culture. But the culture that you create is affected by the quantum and the galactic and everything in between, the bacterial even. There's bacteria in your brain that can dictate your emotions. And if you don't have the right kind of bacteria, you can find that your mind will be more traumatized than normal. So, these kinds of things are really important to consider as we move ahead, as we rebuild our planet. And right now, we're in an awkward time because we're in a very big event, a control grid implementation event. So, if that locks in place, we need to be able to act, and we want to make sure it doesn't lock in place. So, do whatever you can to have a very organic life. Use things in hand. Try to get out of the internet systems. This is really key because the internet systems are run by beings and consciousness and AI that are not even necessarily from this galaxy. They don't belong here. This is our home. And we have our own internet, Indra's net. And I encourage you to actually practice connecting to Indra's net. So at the end of our day today, I'm actually going to walk you through a meditation to connect to Indra's net where we can all actually talk to each other because that's one of your capabilities. That's one of your inheritance abilities for being human and having DNA and the multidimensional experience that you are. So at the end, we're going to do a meditation and connect on Indra's net together so you can feel it. And that'll be something special. There's many magical things that can come out of that particular connection. So that being said, there's been a lot of what we would call scraping of the bottom of the pot going on emotionally. And this is across the board. There's feelings of grief and pain and trauma that are indescribable going on in humanity right now. And this is something that is necessary. It's part of an initiation experience. We're being initiated into becoming Homo luminous and leaving behind the old self. This starts with the personal first. So I said to someone really close to me, "You're not losing me, you're losing the old version of me." I intend to be an entirely different person every day. And this path has to be walked alone. So being alone right now is pretty terrifying. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have community or friends or partners or love or all these things. But deep down inside of you, for you to evolve, should be your only concern at the moment in the self, in the personal self, bringing it to the universal. And in that concern, you need to dig deep for the deepest pieces, the deepest traumas, the deepest polarities. Continue to do the self inquiry. If something bad happens around you, all of us have had bad stuff happen the past month, especially. If something bad's happening in your life, maybe your worst nightmares are unfolding. Could be a divorce, could be your best friend leaving, it could be your children being sick, it could be many different things. The loss of material support, your job, all sorts of things have happened, especially in the past few years, but this past month has actually been incredibly intense. Use these opportunities, this pain, to examine deeper. So something happened for me this past month. Multiple things happened this past month, like back to back to back, right? You can barely catch your breath. And I've been sick off and on for months, and I'm terribly behind in emails. I'm very sorry for all of that to all of you who are listening who've been trying to email me or get any sort of resources from me. I literally have 107 emails in my inbox today. So I'm really trying. But unless I spend every single day all day long on emails, I I literally can't catch up. So, be gentle to yourself on this one. Like I had to reschedule our call cuz I literally was drowning in overwhelm. Stand up for yourself in those moments. Just say, "Look, I'm trying to keep my head above water." Be honest. Transparency right now is key. We can't go forward at all in any of our aspects of our lives without transparency. And transparency brings clarity, it brings discernment. Transparency doesn't have to be brutal, by the way. It can be beautiful, it can be kind. And so, taking that attitude of, I'm going to do my best to own my own feelings, I'm going to do my best to listen, and I'm going to do my very best to be transparent about where I'm at right now. And you'll be surprised at how supportive your people around you and life around you actually is of that transparency. Own your feelings. No one can make you feel anything, but your feelings are real and they're trying to show you trauma. So, here a bunch of back to back crap happened. Just shocking stuff that kind of came out of nowhere and was really painful. And it threw me into a spin. And that's a process, right? So, we will call it spinning because that's a good way to describe what it feels like when you're just spun, right? Something hits you and you spin out. It's a mysticism concept. So you're spinning out and you feel overwhelmed. You can't control your mind. Your brain is literally running over the pain over and over and over again, even for weeks, and it won't stop. And you can bow to it and you can be grateful and you can tell it to that you're in charge and all this nice stuff that I've taught you that I try on myself too. And sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes there's stuff that's really hard to process or even nigh impossible. We're coming across some pretty impossible SHIT these days, right? So when you're finding this impossibleness, you've got to summon up grace. Grace is in between everything. Grace is in between the atoms. Grace is the space between all particles of consciousness. It's the content holder It's the library that maintains reality. Grace is here. Grace is conscious. Grace will help you. If you humble yourself to the grace of Source God, then you will become grace. You'll find that you are actually full of more space and grace than you are your own self. Allow that to take over. Let yourself feel the pain. Let it reveal to you the last vestiges of the worst traumas that block you from being 100% your soul. And that stuff is brutal. So for me, I get astounded even thinking about it, really, because I don't know what to do. We're in a lot of new territory, and being such a know-it-all over here doesn't help. I tend to think I know or have some kind of clue about what to do, but this tells us really where we're at, doesn't it? When even the know-it-alls are like, "Nope, no idea." No, we're in new territory. This is what being in the cutting edge of consciousness is. It's appropriate for us not to know what to do because we're all here in new territory. There isn't one person among us on this planet who knows exactly where we're at because we've never been here before as a species. Not even in this galaxy, folks. So galactic history is not going to help us either. Those energies were entirely different anyway. So, all this stuff that's come up around friendship, around relationship for me, especially, and being mostly Libra, like my chart's ridiculous. It's all Libra pretty much. Relationships are vital to me. This is why I'm an anthropologist. I love humanity. I love humans. I love culture. I love relationships. I like communication. And when communication and relationships break down, I suffer more than perhaps the average Joe might. I suffer a lot around that. And I had to examine why. What is going on? When all these relationships are falling apart around me that I was leaning on, that I felt so connected to, and they happen out of nowhere. Why? What's going on? So when I look closer at that pain, I was digging in and asking my mind and my body to reveal to me, why does this hurt so bad? Why can't I just say, all right, fine, then they weren't really my friend? Or, you know what? I don't really want to be treated like that. Or that's fine. Whatever they need to do, I'm going to go do my thing and unhook. Why can't I do that easily? So I dug in, and what was revealed to me was extremely intense. Suddenly, it was very clear to me that I had repressed the first 7 years of my childhood entirely. And it began to arise in me to actually remember the first 7 years. Now that whole period of time was really intense, and I'd been like, oh, I just remember a few things really. Well, no, now I remember all of it, and holy cow, how do you heal that? How do you heal such a wicked, strange childhood that, my parents were just young in their early 20s. They didn't have any clue what was going on. And so, they give birth to a psychic seer and they don't know what to do. Why should they? No one's born knowing how to parent. So, we're not taught how to parent or how to be friends with people. We had to figure this stuff out. It's pretty messy. We fall off our bike a lot with that stuff. No one's taught how to be in a marriage like, or any sort of relationship, really. we go by the skin of our teeth most of the time. But I was a psychic seer while living in Cold War Germany, and I lived in all the major bases: Gröttingen, Stuttgart, Munich, Bamberg, Nuremberg, and I might be missing some. But some of those places we lived, they were Nazi barracks. And so I grew up surrounded in war, but many types of war, many layers of war. That whole area had a lot of war going on for a long time, not just World War II. And so trying to navigate reality while surrounded in this imprint of war. And then at 4 years old, living through Chernobyl and the fallout and the confusion and the agony of the people and the animals and the wildlife and the whole of nature. And furthermore, just to add to, the cherry on top, war attracts some pretty wretched demonic beings and being surrounded in that too. So how do you heal that? You can't, because you're not broken. I'm not broken. Yeah, I'm pretty alone when it comes to such strange experiences. It really hurts. I don't know what to say. Like, how do you describe to somebody remembering waking up in your crib to an SS officer talking to you and not knowing if they were physically real or not? Because nobody knew what was going on because you couldn't talk. That kind of stuff. How do you heal that? You can't. Grace heals it. You have to become grace. Remember that. Most of the space in between all your cells and all of your atoms, it's not you, it's grace. Grace can heal it. Grace can heal it. Sometimes you can't process this stuff to the very bottom, but you should give it a try to get to the closest point you can and then ask for grace to come and help. But you can't do it while you think you're broken. You know, I've told you before I suffer with dysmorphia, so I see myself as terribly deformed. And it's very vivid and real to me. When I look in the mirror, I see deformity. And it's very strange because it's different than psychic seeing. And it's not hallucination. It's sort of like my brain is wired to perceive it that way. And so like I'll rewatch these videos of our community call to make sure I'm in integrity and that I didn't screw anything up or whatever. But I really try to be in integrity, and I'm real picky about that with myself because you're trusting me and I need you to be able to do that and do it well. So, I'll look at these videos of myself and I don't see the same thing as other people do. I see flaws, I see distortion. But this mantra coming up of, hey, it's really okay to be alone. And all of us feel alone at some point or another. The path to an enlightened state, it has to be done alone because you are a singular frequency that is unlike any other. You can't compare yourself to other people. You can't. It's impossible. It's better to celebrate other people than compare because they are utterly different and unique in the universe too. So celebrate the fact that technically there is only one frequency like you in this universe, and it spans through all dimensions. It's not just the physical you. There's a universal you too. And that is a universal frequency that helps maintain reality. Your presence, literally through the observer presence, the great observer that you are, the never ending, non judgmental observer, observes reality into existence without preference. That one's tough. Without preference. But then there's this deep piece of you that needs to be acknowledged. This other mantra: you are not broken. There's nothing to fix. Some things you can't heal, some things only grace can reveal. Only grace can really heal us in the end and help you to perceive yourself as the truth, not a dysmorphic, ab- abused, messed up, strange, weird, deformed person. That's not who I am. So I can take that deformity energy or that dysmorphia energy and examine it and observe it. I can observe it. The great observer has no preference. Deformity isn't wrong. Deformity doesn't mean I'm broken. Dysmorphia doesn't mean that something's bad. It just is. And you feel the difference? Your pain, your loss. It doesn't mean something's wrong with you. If you're willing to own your stuff and own your feelings and say, look, I'm doing the best I can. I might have screwed up here. I totally acknowledge that. I'm willing to do better. That's the best that we can do. Not everyone's going to be willing to accept that. And you, my friends, all of you are living mirrors. You know how tough it is to be around other folks. When we're around other people, we are very deeply subconsciously concerned about what they think about us. It's very painful to feel like someone might see you as weak, that someone might see you as broken or weird, or even worse, that they might see you as dark or evil when you're not. That they might want to be your friend one day and shut the door the next. That the community might have some strange opinion going around in the grapevine about you. This is all real stuff. Everybody goes through this. I don't know anyone who doesn't. And then when you grow up, like so many of us have, I certainly don't think my childhood's the worst. I really don't. It's just so weird. Like, I try to sift through it. I'm like, I've never even heard of any of this stuff before. I'm looking at something as if I'm looking at it as it's new, but it's my childhood. It's because I haven't remembered it. I stuffed it down for good reason, but yet it's the source of all my feelings about being too weird to be loved. I'm just too strange. My parents thought everything that something was wrong with me. They wanted to make sure I was spiritually safe. They were really worried. They wanted to make sure I was mentally sane. You know, they did their best that they could too. And that's really key for us to acknowledge. Because anytime we look at our childhood, we're going to look at who raised us too. In this case, those early years, my parents they were great. Like, they did the best they could. It was a lot. They were moving all the time. My dad was an infantryman. He protected the Czech border. He did a lot of stuff. So did my mom. My mom was running around, um, pulling up as many items for babies and children as she could to give away for free to young single mothers, and she did a lot of great work. So they put their themselves into their passions at that time. But what are they gonna do with a little kid who can talk to Nazi ghosts? Like, what do you do with that? I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I would just try to sit and listen. What would I do as a parent? My children see to a certain extent, but you know, I've always asked, please don't give them my gift. Like, don't give this to them. This is not, it didn't start out as a gift. And I just don't want them to have to experience life like that without being able to turn it off. That's the big difference. I can't turn it off. And so, I want them to be able to experience it at their pace cuz it's their birthright. It's yours too. You can see all the dimensions. It's part of who you are. But the good thing is that you can turn it off. And that's really important. We need breaks from that stuff. We need to be able to rest. I can't do that. So I don't sleep. When I sleep, I go into a different dimension. I don't ever not sleep. Like, I'm always awake in one way or another. And I've had to get used to that. And it's taken 40 years. But that being said, now I have to get used to being really weird. Like, when you have such a strange childhood that's so indescribable, where it wasn't your parents doing anything, it was like just the place that you were living and the energetic surroundings you were in, and just being so young and not knowing what is good and evil. Well, I've had to figure that out real quick. And so I'm looking at these imprints of war, these imprints of good and evil, these imprints of those first 7 years. And it makes me think that it's really important for all of us to do this, to really look at those first 7 years. Now, a lot of us can't remember that stuff, probably for good reason, but your heart remembers. So when this whole sort of falling apart of relationships has happened, it hit me physically here. And that's a clue. This is mysticism 101 when it comes to emotional processing. When you get hit, there's a bad blow in your life. It's going to show you structure that's been maintained by your heart and your memory of the heart. And that structure is what you need to focus on. You may never remember your childhood, but your heart does. And it triggered something. And for me, it was a pattern. I'd be somewhere, I'd try my best, I'd give so much, give resources and time and energy and attention and thought. And I would try to be a good friend. I wanted to have friends so bad, but I was always the new kid. Man, I don't know how many times I was the new kid. So many times. I moved over 40 times now and I'm almost 40. So that gives you a clue. A lot of new kid energy there. And what happens to new kids who are as weird as I might be? Well, we tend to overshare. We tend to get really attached too fast. We tend to be know it alls. We tend to be helpers. And we get the door slammed in our face a lot. We get people overwhelmed. We get told that we're intense. I went over to my friend's house the other day here in Vilcabamba, and he's an older man in his 60s. I have a lot of older friends. They tend to be able to put up with me better, I think. But my friend, I'm telling him about this crazy experience I had a couple of months ago with this king of chaos, this celestial, an original angelic being become demon, right? So an original demon. These folks are here. So the original fallen celestials are here, and I'm talking about them to him, and he's like, Liz, he's British, so he calls me Liz, and he says, Liz, you're a really intense person. I can imagine that it must be very hard for you. He was trying to mirror back to me how not only do I not know how to have a normal conversation, but what do I jump into? I jump into the most intense things you can think of. I don't talk about the weather. Nope. I jump into the deepest, darkest, craziest stuff or the most intense, vivid, multidimensional experiences I'm having. Because deep down inside, I think people want to know about that. Maybe they don't. And he likes these kinds of conversations, but he was like, you know, you're really intense. And just acknowledging that it's kind of hard for people who are that intense to navigate friendships and relationships, and that I shouldn't expect everything to go perfectly well with those things, considering the intensity level of my life, you know? So I actually took that and I'm like, he's right. There's nothing wrong with that. Remember, no preferences. The observer doesn't have a preference for intensity or tranquility. But when I observe it, I see you're right. I have created and I have pulled in as a creator soul one of the most intense lives you could want. Why? And when I back into the frequency that I am, right? So this is another piece. Finding the structure in the body, noticing it, valuing it. Your event that's triggered pain is showing you structure that is distorting your reality. For me, it's my first 7 years of childhood and feeling too weird to be loved and feeling completely deformed and having this extremely intense life that I have a hard time relating to anyone else literally around me, even my own family. They pat me on the head and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, she's intense." Um, and but they know when something intense happens, they can call me up and I'll be like, "Yeah, totally get it." The relationship I have with clients in the world too. They know they can call me up and say, "Pretty much nobody's gonna believe me except you." And that's happened a lot. And maybe that's exactly right, right? There's a bright side to this. I've set up my life to be available for the intensity, to be available for the weirdness, to be available for the stuff that you wouldn't even be able to tell your partner, to be available for the worst case scenarios or the last chance. I can do that. I can do it because I have to do it every day for myself. That's why I'm here. That's why I've survived. And so have you. We're alive, by golly, against all odds. So, this intensity, there's a point to it. There's always a reason. Always. There's a reason why I needed that childhood. It didn't break me, otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. Instead, it cultivated in me the ability to maintain a position that is extremely hard to do. Being the one who says, I believe you. I believe you because I've been there too. So if I can do that for the world and offer that light, then that's the reason. And that is grace. That's grace. Grace comes in and redefines the whole thing. Grace comes in and shows you that this structure, this pain, that it's extremely valuable. It's going to show you why you exist. It's going to show you what you're here to do. And then you take that path. And as you take that path and you welcome it, you're finally, your mind will become quiet. As you take that path, somebody's going to mirror it to you. My friend yesterday mirrored it to me. She said, Elizabeth, what's the real root emotion of your childhood? Super wise healing woman who's just one of the best in the world. And she says, what's the root emotion? And I said, fear. She said, see, it's really hard for people to get down to the fear, but you know how. I said, well, I've been trained how. I'm a mystic. I follow my fear. And she's like, that's right. Because why? And I said, because when you find the next craziest thing that you're afraid of, and you are willing to feel that fear all the way, you become something totally new on the other side. You become a more true version of your soul in your body. She said, yeah, that's right. So you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. This is the next fear. The fear of being so strange and so weird that no one could possibly love you or be your friend. So intense that nobody invites you to their parties, right? And she's like, that's the path on the other side of that is tranquility. And then she asked me a much harder question. What makes you light up? What makes you rock? What makes you amazing? I had a really hard time answering that. So I sat with it and I said, finally, insight, insight. The gift of insight that I have is unparalleled. And when I drop into that skill, that ability, that soul level capability, because my essence is luminosity, my frequency is literally just luminosity. When I drop into that, I find myself feeling one with everything. When I do sessions with people, I am one with everything. I can feel and see the truth. I have insight. It's a little different than just sight because insight, I can pull library books and help you to examine some aspect of consciousness in depth. We can go beginners or advanced. We could skip to the back of the book if you want to. That's insight. Having any issue at all, being able to unwrap it and lay it out for someone and then empower them to do something about it, not just give them answers, give them the tools and the ability to get the answers. That's insight. It's different than just seeing stuff and telling people what you see. It's helping them navigate all the attributes of their experience in a very full way. That's insight. And yes, I have to do it as a psychic seer I use my psychic seeing skills to accomplish insight, but insight is the gift that I really have. And when I am doing it and when I am insight, what is luminosity really but the ability to bring sight, right? To light something up that once was dark or difficult to see, and then help you to examine it without preference, without judgment, and really gain the wisdom and knowledge and actions and skills that have to come from whatever that might be. That's insight. So when I do that, I feel one with everything. I feel one with the universe. And my friend's like waiting for me to add to this list. She's like, "What else? What else makes you amazing?" I'm like, "That's the one thing I really would put all my money on that one." And she's like, "See, this is the problem with the world is you don't see the truth about yourself. You can see the truth about everything else. You have insight about everything else except yourself." She's like, "What about your beauty? What about your kindness? What about how generous you are? What about how what a good communicator you are?" And she said, there's a lot of people who've been navigating this world asking themselves, well, what's in it for me? In fact, marketing in general has been taught you need to be concerned about your people and what's in it for them. We've literally trained people how to be narcissists. And there's so many folks, and there's parts of ourselves where we're like, what's in it for me? And there's kind of a spectrum. Duality doesn't just remain in separate spots ever. There's always a spectrum. So, on one side is like total narcissist who does literally think all the time, what's in it for me, right? And then here's the other side. And this is where I tend to fit in here, where I'm never thinking about myself. I wrote all of you and was like, oh my God, guys, I can't breathe. I can't do our community call. Like, I have to wait till next week. I'm really sorry. My son just came to visit me. When am I going to go visit? When am I going to hang out with my son? He's still here and I'm doing the community call because I really want to, because I want to be with you. I love you so much. And it's just so tough to say to myself, well, what about me? Right? So I've been trying, but there's a lot of us over here on this other side of the spectrum. We're like, well, what can I give? If I give this, maybe they'll like me more. If I give this, maybe they'll trust me more. If I give this, maybe they'll be my friend. If I give this, maybe they'll feel loved and then they'll love me. Does that sound familiar? If I keep giving, then somebody will love me. And, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. It's pretty hard to get attention. It's pretty hard for my parents to give attention to 7 kids. They did, again, the best they could. So, how did I get attention from other people outside the family? Well, I'd get good grades, people would give me attention, so I became the best academic I could. But I remember finishing my bachelor's of science and feeling suicidal because unless I got into a master's degree, all that attention and love and gold stars and A pluses and was gonna disappear. All the ways that I got love in my life were gonna disappear. And when I graduated, I wanted to die. I had no other way to find love. And so I did. I went and got my master's degree, but that humbled me because I had to beg. I did a lot of begging that year. And I stayed in school for another 2 years, got my master's, but even my own master's project failed, and I had to write my master's thesis about why my project failed. That was my thesis. It's really humbling. But I had to dig deep, and that was the time that I actually started paying to go to therapy. And I finally found a psychotherapist who was like, "All right, look, you might see things, don't tell me." He's like, "Don't tell me cuz otherwise I have to like diagnose, and I don't want to do that cuz there's nothing wrong with you when it comes to that." But he gave me good advice, and I'm going to give it to you. He said, "Find somebody to talk shop with. Find somebody you can talk to." It took me a long time to do that, but I did. I found my teacher, Lucia, and when I go visit her, I can talk to her about anything, and she just loves that. She's like, "Oh, I love it. You never talk about the weather." So she likes that. She likes my weird personality. I found somebody to talk shop with. It was a lifesaver, really. One of the best things that man ever taught me. And he didn't give up on me. Find somebody who's not going to give up. Find somebody who's willing to work outside the box and modify things. And so I would ride my bike once a week and go to therapy and was working full time, going full time to master's school as a single mom. And I made it work. And I got a way to start to build new ways for me to love and receive love that didn't have to do with academia. And when I got my master's degree, my teachers celebrated me, and they celebrated my humility, and they celebrated what I'd learned, that I don't know everything because I sure acted like it to get attention and love during bachelor school. But they lifted me up, and they set me forth. And they also warned me. They said, "You're not going to be a professor. They won't ever treat you right, and you won't be well accepted. You're a theorist. They don't want theorists teaching in schools." I tried to do PhD anyway, and every door got shut in my face. And I'm like, well, that's my mystical clue that they were right. But they warned me, they said they'll just eat you alive. Like, I know they knew I really wanted to be an anthropology professor, but that wasn't what I was meant to do. So Source set me on the mysticism path. It was a much better fit. And I can and do still use all my training in anthropology and all the work I accomplished every day. It's the best thing that I did for myself was to get that master's. I'm telling you this personal story because there's some pieces here that you need right now. And it exemplifies the journey from being suicidal to, hey, I can do this. Hey, there's other ways for me to receive love. And I also played a lot of music. I'm a musician. I play the piano and I sing, and I did a lot of that every single week. That was another way for me to create and receive love and celebrate other musicians. I did potlucks every week at my house for my neighborhood and all the parents, and we'd share time and food and let our kids play. It was wonderful. We had a really good, thriving community. It lasted long after I left town. So we did potlucks. That's another thing you can be doing is sharing food with your neighbors. But you gotta think outside the box. And I'm like, well, how else can I receive love? Well, when I work on the land, when I work on the mountain, it's a very humbling experience. I receive incredible amounts of love from nature now. I didn't know how to do that until this past year. When I meditate, when I still my mind and I still my heart, and I just reach out to all that grace and all that source energy, I receive love that way too. And so, we're human beings. We crave love. We want connection. We sometimes do crazy stuff to get it. Narcissistic, selfish things, or extremely selfless to a fault type of things. We give and we don't include ourselves. How can you expect for an equation to even out in love and grace if you don't include yourself in the equation? You're not going to get anything out of it. So, these kinds of things have to be examined right now because this is the foundation of on which we're going to rebuild our planet. This is the foundation we have to stand on if we're going to say enough, I want to be free. You have to be able to include yourself in the freedom, in the love. There's a middle ground. It really is to love yourself in equanimity with everything else that you love. I am no expert at it. I'm just aware that it's coming up for me personally, and then it must be valuable for everybody if that's the case. I just know that as a fact over all these years that the personal experience is never personal. It's always a universal experience. And I'm finally starting to, sift through my past in such a way that I can pull out some of the most valuable things that got me to the point that I wasn't suicidal anymore every day. And a lot of us have been. A lot of us have death constantly there in the back of our mind, probably because of our horrific childhoods. When you grow up in a war zone, what do you expect but death to be there all the time, reminding you of that escape route? So, these kinds of things we have to notice, we have to examine now. It's time. And digging through things like past lives won't help with this one. This particular life, you worked really hard to be here. If you're here existing on planet Earth right now, you worked really hard to be here. You don't need any ETs or guides to save you. You are the answer. This is the life that you worked to get to. This is the end of the library. This is the life, the book that you're reading of your life right now. Notice how much energy you spend flipping back in the book over all the pain you've been in. Stop that. It's a waste of time. Keep getting hold of your mind. Meditate. Keep bowing to all this stuff going on and the things that pull all of your triggers and your strings. Bow to them and say, thanks for trying to help, but I'm in charge right now. I'm in charge, not you, not the past. I get to decide what part of the book we're reading right now. I'm in the moment where all the action is. And in that understanding that you are experiencing something that is for you, it's the most exciting life that you've ever been able to have. You know why? Because this is the one where you get to experience what it's like to become a new species. What a rare and strange opportunity to become a new species. Homo luminous. And no, 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 you can't make it easy. This particular life, it's not going to be easy for you to become a new species. Can't be easy because evolution happens under pressure, folks. You know this. Humans don't change until the last minute. They don't keep a giant, massive, huge global control grid from clicking into place until the last minute, which is now, right now, today. They don't reach sovereignty and freedom. Humans don't. Nope, not till the last minute. Not till the Visigoths are at your door, pounding the gate of Rome down. And that's where you're at. It's this life. So all the pressure you've been under, all the strangeness, all the intensity, all the weird stuff that makes you feel unlovable or untouchable or unrelatable, all the craving for trust, all the craving for love, there is a good reason why all this is happening. So that you could be in a position to say, I understand. I believe you. Let's do this together. I'm luminosity and you are your frequency and you are your frequency, and we're going to do this in harmony. And all I can do is just be me, be your essence, be your soul. I am not Elizabeth. That is the life that I'm living. That's the book I'm reading. I am a being of light, of great power, of great resourcefulness. I am a being of insight. This is the life that I've been given, that I worked so hard for. I am not throwing this out. This is a treasure. You know how I know it's a treasure? Because it's been so hard. And no, stop this whole comparing thing. I actually hear a voice in my head say, other people have had harder lives. Stop that. You know, this is really, this whole comparing each other thing drives me nuts. It drives me nuts because it's not real. You can't compare the letter A to the letter Z. I'm sorry. They're two different things. You can't compare middle C on the piano to the high sweet C at the very tippy top of the piano or the low deep C at the end. They're not comparable. They are different frequencies. When you play them all together, they sound awesome, right? So that's the job at the moment. Be your true self. Be it with every little ounce you've got. You don't have a choice anymore. Stop playing around. Be your soul. It's time. You know, I like to cheer humanity on, but I can also be firm. I'm talking to myself too. I'm always including myself in these little firm talks, looking in the mirror and all this distortion. Like, be yourself. Love yourself. Do it. Do it. Do it with everything you've got. Love this book you're reading. What an amazing book. You've worked eons to be here. That's why there's so many people on earth right now. This is the greatest end of the age that has ever happened. This is the greatest change that has ever happened to us as humans, as humanoids in this galaxy, in this part of space. This is your party. Call upon your lineage, call upon the angelic. There are armies waiting for you. They've got your back. You just have to tell them what to do. Call on all the guides, the good benevolent ones who've revealed their agendas. Are they going to do the human agenda or not? If they're not here for your human agenda and for the sovereign freedom of humanity, tell them to leave. You're here for Earth. You're here for Gaia, the most incredible planet, the template of life, the template of the original design of nature and life is here on Gaia. The template designed for human species for DNA is here on Gaia. That's you. Your DNA is the original. The very beginning DNA was given to this experiment on this planet for a lot of reasons. But this DNA is very special, it's very precious. That's why it's so intense. That's why everybody in all the galaxies around us are interested in us from far, far away. They're interested in you because this is the original. All of you are part of that. Call on it, it's yours. You got invited to be in this body. That means that you must be very powerful. And if you've had a traumatized life, then you specifically said, give me that book. I want an advanced one because you're powerful. This Elizabeth life is something else, man. You know, we check these books out in the library and we think we know. Nope, nope, we don't. You think you know until you start reading the book and you're like, holy cow, wow, I didn't realize how intense this book would be. But I gotta read it. I gotta finish it before I can, check it back into the library. I'm glad I did. I got this one. It's really advanced. It's really advanced because it's really hard. It's hard to read this one. There's some tough stuff in this one. But I'm strong and I'm powerful. I'm a creator being. And so I choose this book because it's going to teach me more than any other life. That's why focusing right now is so key. So we still have some work to do on ourselves. We have a lot of healing to do, but not because we're broken. We have healing to do because grace then can really reveal to us the real reason why certain things have happened, why strange childhoods occur, why friends leave or partners leave or issues with family and people that we care about happen, why we're under such immense pressure as a species. All of this is very clear the more present you are, the more you're willing to dig into your own pain and reveal it. And then the tranquility comes, the process of finding the pain, understanding it, merging with it, allowing it, revealing it, unwrapping it. At the end of that is always tranquility. You'll know because it will happen to you. you'll find yourself feeling more open and clear than ever. You'll find yourself being different. You'll be able to say to the people around you, you did lose me, but you lost the old me. You won't lose this me now, the one that loves myself, the one that is fascinated with this amazing life, the one that's finally willing to say, well, what does make me amazing? I don't know. And go find out. The one that plucks their humanity and their empathy back out of a narcissistic upbringing. The one that reclaims their sovereignty and their freedom from a upbringing of too much selfless giving and reclaims a more direct path as an observer without preference that sees wisdom in all things. This is your task now. It's time. It's time for you to be 100% your frequency. Find people to talk to about it. Talk shop with the right folks. There's so much for you. There are many, many people out there who get it, who'll say, me too. I believe you. I understand. Understanding is such a great balm on us, feeling so alone. And then we can actually celebrate being alone. Being alone is something I'm afraid of. And I really had to sit and say, why? Why am I so afraid? Because weird stuff would always happen to me when I was alone. So, no wonder. Okay, great. I can merge with that. I can welcome that. Weird stuff always happens to me anyway, whether I'm alone or not. But it's really okay. It's good to value and treasure your alone space so that you can be more you, so that you can nurture different ways to receive love that's not just from people around you who might be really traumatized and sensitive and in a lot of pain. It's really hard to draw love out of folks who are traumatized and sensitive. This is hard. How can they trust? Don't blame people for not trusting. They don't trust because they're hurt, because they might not know how to call upon grace to help them heal, or they don't know how to sift through all their trauma and make sure it doesn't distort their reality. They don't know how not to project on people. We have to be so compassionate, folks, especially right now. I have a lot of folks emailing me lately saying, my neighbor is possessed. These people over here are crazy. This person is messing up my life. They're really angry. They feel us and them energy. They want it to be over. They don't know what to do. And recently, something came up, and I told the person, I said, when's the last time you talked to them? And they're like, I haven't. And I said, that would be a good first step with this in this particular case. So you got to suss it out. Some people, you can't do that, right? So, there's some cases where you got to ask yourself, maybe if I have a conversation of compassion, kind of get to know this person and understand like why they're doing this kind of stuff, and then explain my side of it, but be a good listener and try to understand. really suss that out because we can't cut ourselves off with this cell phone internet world anymore. Face to face communication is extremely vital for human existence, folks. And then there's folks who, if you tried to do that, it would be really bad. So you got to really discern this. Really notice logically, feel it in your heart, ask your gut, is this safe? Sometimes it's not, but then you got to use some of your mysticism skills. If you want real changes, you need to be a mystic. You need to navigate consciousness. Go back and listen to some of these community calls because I weave a lot of mysticism in for you. Mysticism can't be taught. It's something you have to absorb by being around a mystic. So I'm blessed to have a lineage where my teacher absorbed mysticism from her teacher and he absorbed it from his, etc., for a very long time. And that absorption was really, really clean. And so I have absorbed this mysticism training for 12 years now. And I'm sharing it with you in the best way that I can because it's hard for you to be up close and absorb it in person, which is ideal. Sometimes we can't do that. This is the next best thing. So there's mysticism in this. And you need to ask yourself, what is the energy? What's the frequency of this person or this problem? That is a mystic's question. The first question, what is the frequency? You see how I'm not saying, oh, it's a negative vibe. We don't have preference in mysticism. What we might call a negative vibe is full of incredible information. You need to be very conscious of that and acknowledge it and be willing to be humbled by some of these frequencies, right? Like the frequency of crazy, the frequency of possessed. There's some pretty rough ones out there, but they're full of value. Possession is a thing that happens to humans for a reason. If it's literally your neighbor upstairs, then you need to take a look at it. It's in your attention. In mysticism, what comes into your attention is the exact next thing you need to attend to. And you can't run away because it's going to follow you one way or another. You know this, right? You're like, I'm just going to move. I'm going to move to a different town. I did this for real. I'm going to move to a different town. Everything will be fine. Nope. Nope. This stuff follows you because it's trying to reveal stuff in you, distortion and density in you. And when you shift that, then things change. You want people to treat you different around you, then this has to change first. If I want real friends, if I want good relationships, then I have to change my relationship with myself, don't I? If I'm going to really be able to have that, I need to be willing to know how amazing I am. And then I'll be able to have friends. And that, my friends, is the key to the next step for all of us. All right, so I've dug in pretty deep on this stuff. Thank you for hearing me. I want to take a look at some of the things that you're presenting to me through chat, and I'm going to be scanning and you'll see me do that. But what questions are coming up for you lately? That's the kind of cool part about these calls is anything goes. Do you relate to what I'm saying today? What's going on for you? I really want to know because you're a universal being too. Your life is so important. I want to know that. So I'm kind of going back here into our chat. Super great to see all these people. Thanks for being here. So Haman's asking, and he always asks such good practical mysticism questions. He says, how do you recharge your lucid dreaming body faster in order to increase the frequency with which one is able to have one's conscious mind awake within a dream state? So that's an assumption that you have to recharge a lucid dreaming body in order to increase frequency of your lucid dream states. So what he's saying is, do you have to recharge what we would call a lucid dreaming body? I would call it the fourth dimensional body. And all of us have access to all 12 dimensions. And don't forget about the first and second. They're really cool. Everybody leaves them behind. Please don't. They're really special. But the fourth dimensional body is the dream body. And no, I have not found that you have to recharge it at all. It doesn't need recharging so much as it needs meditation. We could call meditation a recharge. But the more you meditate, Haman, the more you will lucid dream. The more you do emotional processes with your trauma during the day, the better you will lucid dream. Because otherwise, your brain in dream state will have to process for you. And if you do those two things for the brain before dreaming, then you'll lucid dream more often. So meditate and emotionally process during the day as much as you can, and you'll find that the frequency of lucid dreaming happens. You don't need to recharge it. The lucid dream fourth dimensional body is always in the dream state. This is why we can daydream, which is a type of remote viewing. And so you don't have to be asleep to dream. It's always there. The fourth dimension is the dream state. And you can do it awake or asleep. But definitely hone in on those two basics, and you'll find that you can totally lucid dream. And then if you want to really get yourself up to par and stronger, then do a lot of daydreaming. Go and do a little bit of remote viewing on your favorite vacation spot and just hang out and do fun stuff. That will help your fourth dimensional body more easily go into dream state. Why would we want to do that? Because lucid dreaming and the mystical dreaming state is where we can dream up possibilities and allow the source field to show us more clarity about where we're at and what is the next step and what's the best thing for me to focus on, type of thing. That's why mystical dreaming would be very valuable right now. So I encourage you to dream up something beautiful for us, please. Thank you, Haman. So Kimberly's saying, the sun has been really fascinating, and she's been getting lots of sort of messages about the sun being a conscious being. I absolutely agree. All the stars and planets are conscious. They have the song of the spheres. They have their own language. They have their own cycles, their own relationships with each other. Astrophysics is the study of the culture of the stars and planets. That's why I like studying it so much. Yeah, other people saying, yes, very intense. And transparency being self love. I like that. From the theory school. Thank you for being here. So, Kathy wants to know, and I think you wrote me an email, Kathy, which I'm so sorry. As you know, I've just said, got 107 emails in my inbox today. Phew. So, Kathy says, can you speak more about the chakra system being usurped? I've heard you mention it briefly, but I don't fully understand. So, Kathy's alluding to some years ago, my teacher and myself, we were doing a psychic seeing on the matrix system. And we noticed that the matrix had plugged into the chakra system as a configuration at that time. And that every time you would try to move energy, it was just so slow. It'd have like really specific spots it could go. And if one chakra was shut down, it was a mess. And she said, in the kind of mysticism that she teaches, we would just drop the configuration because it had been sort of hooked in to the matrix system, and it had served us really well for a really long time. It got us through the patriarchy. It helped us maintain a very specific amount of light and knowledge, got us through the dark ages, right? But then it kind of got picked up by this elite system of matrix energy, and it was a physical matrix too. It's gone now. In 2017 it was dismantled. Now what's left is in you. And that's part of the reason why she was like acknowledging, okay, well, we've got this system, but what in us? And it's always a good question. What in us is keeping the system alive, right? Because if you're in a jail, well, you know, feeling sorry for yourself only goes so far. Some way or another, you ended up in that jail. So you kind of got to own your position and say, all right, I'm in a jail and I don't want to be in a jail. And that's the self inquiry process. Why am I in a jail? And then really digging in until you literally have dissolved and merged with the jail itself, and then you're free. That's how you get out of the matrix jail, right? Well, the chakra system had kind of got, twisted up along with so much of the new age. And a lot of people were lied to about it. And it got really, really distorted from its original patterning and its original sort of theoretical basis for its existence. And a lot of times in the West, we've yanked out really cool things like yoga, for example, out of their context. And we've appropriated it for what we think is useful for us, but actually the context was really important. And that's kind of what happened with the chakra system, among many things. It's much more nuanced than that. So we dismantled it. I stopped using the chakra system in my body. I dismantled it. And it felt real weird. And I didn't know, like, well, what configuration am I now? Like, just a blob? Like, how does my energy work now? What I found was more important than anything I'd found up to that point. It was the three minds, the Dantian centers. It revealed a more ancient configuration that's actually better suited for the body. And that would be the Dantian centers, the three Dantians, the brain, the heart, and the gut. And so I started using that. And then I realized that the three Dantians were pointing to the golden ratio in the body. And now I really just use the golden ratio in the body to move energy. 369. So the three minds. And then when you divide it into two sets of three, you've got six, right? And then your body actually denotes this. You've got three joints right here, right? And then your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And then with the nine, it's another set of three. You have three joints in your fingers, right? But nine is an infinite patterning. It has very special attributes. And it's a number of abundance and manifesting. It's the number of God. Nine times any number. So 9 times 7 is 63. 6 plus 3 is 9. The sum of any number times 9 will equal 9. So it's revealing something to us, these deep secrets that have been lost beyond the chakra system. So do with this as you wish, my friends. Use it, throw it out, use both, whatever feels right for you. Discern it with your mind, heart, and gut. what's going to work best. I found it to be very freeing. And it doesn't mean that different spots of my body don't show up as extremely important or that chakras as energy centers aren't all over the place because they are. Even your fingertips have chakras, right? It's just where energy flows. But for me, the golden ratio connected me more deeply to the universe than the chakra system ever did. So I encourage you to play with that. See how that feels for you. I hope that helps, Kathy. Yeah, so Nicolette's noticing things really got spun out yesterday. Yeah, it's because of these solar flares, man, for real. They really affect um they really affect everything. Yeah, nice to see you, Julie, from Ashland, where I went to college. Ashland, Oregon. Just continuing to read these comments, and so very nice to see people recognizing these things. Right, hybridity. Theory school is talking about hybridity. Yeah, being a hybrid. There's many hybrids here. In a way, I am sort of. My my soul's memory is so intense of being a Lyran being, and that it really runs my reality. It it defines me, and it's something that I've had to really examine, and the theory school is quite right. Because I think you're nailing it too, because it has to do with feeling weird and out of place. And I'd always joke like, I don't feel very human. I study humans. I have 2 degrees in anthropology. I study humans. I don't feel human. That's true. Um, and the skills I have are just so weird that, that it makes it more intense. But this embracing of my humanity right now, and this life as a human right now, and studying myself has been such a big, huge shift from feeling like an outsider to this deep self examination in order to become the universe. So, all of us might feel an aspect of that. And some folks, even you all, may very well be actual DNA hybrids, my friends. This has been a common theme on this planet. And hybrids have a lot of problems feeling like they can fit in. They've a lot of times 2 different kinds of DNA that evolved on 2 different planets, and they don't necessarily get along. And so that can feel like an inner war. And if that's the case for you, please understand you are not alone at all. No, not at all. A huge percentage of humanity is hybridized. It doesn't mean you can't be Homo luminous. You have a chance to do that because you do have human DNA. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to survive on this planet. So just know that you are strong. You are in this body to experience some kind of reality that is extremely vital right now for it to be unwrapped. That's why there's so many people on the planet. And that's definitely key. So, embrace both. I finally embraced my more alien self, and I'm so glad I did because I've learned so much and it's been very humbling. And now I'm here really embracing my humanity. And by examining my childhood, that's helped to do that. So find what it is for you to examine about this, and that you're not broken and you're going to be okay because you're here with us. And we're here together. You're not alone, and it's okay to be alone. Interesting dichotomy there. Right. I like what Carolyn says, when once you get old, it's much easier not to be concerned about what other people think of you. It's true. Yeah, and other people saying, yeah, it's hard to turn stuff off. So Jima Happy Girl says, is this also about embracing our polarity as humans? My fear of being seen as something by others says to me that there are aspects of me that I haven't loved and accepted. It's so juicy. So here's how you do a square around polarities. Oh, yeah, girl. It's all about polarities. Half the dimensions have polarities. It's a giant cosmic hilarious joke. I love it. Half the dimensions of reality have polarity and duality in them, which means it's really important for you to understand yourself and, of course, source God better, right? All right, so here's how you do a square. Leslie Temple Thurston, go get the book, The Marriage of Spirit. The Marriage of Spirit by Leslie. In chapter 7 or 11, one of those, it's squares. It's a technique. So you take a polarity, right? So, like, fear of being seen, I don't want to be seen, or the desire to be seen, right? To be seen or not to be seen. And then you do a fear desire dynamic. So you have your polarity, maybe victim tyrant, abundance scarcity, to be seen or not, abandonment or acceptance, right? Whatever polarity is showing up. Could be really simple, could be complicated, could be a holy cow polarity like good and evil, right? And then you have your other side of the piece. You have fear and desire. And so you got to ask yourself, how do I fear being seen? You're looking at this life. How do I fear being seen? How do I desire to be seen? How do I fear not being seen? How do I desire not being seen? So I had like a huge breakthrough in my own processes around a polarity around banishment and acceptance, right? And I'm like, all right, how do I fear banishment? Well, that one's easy, right? We can go through. Yeah, I fear being banished. How do I fear being accepted? Oh, yeah, well, I'm pretty weird, so I fear being accepted. That's true. How do I desire to be accepted? Yeah, that one's easy. I really want to be accepted and loved. But all the juicy stuff came from desiring to be banished. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is a part of me who desires to be banished. That just blew open a whole bunch of personality stuff for me. Like, I just want to be banished so I can do whatever I want anyway. I was like, wow, I didn't know that part of me existed. Yet there it was. So you'll be surprised at how this works out for you. And then just emotionally process whatever comes up as you answer those questions. And then at the end of every process, it's good to meditate and let it kind of fall into place. The new understanding of yourself. So I hope that helps. It's a technique I loved. Good. All right, continuing to go through our chat here. So many people relate to. I have no idea how to have a normal conversation. Good. I'm glad. It's difficult. And Dakey says something beautiful. Grace gave me awareness of self-hate feelings inside listless apathy. There's no doing in grace. It's sometimes just a burst of memory, pain, and joy. Is apathy a polarity that they're floating in? Perhaps apathy versus grace. How do we fear and desire apathy? Apathy gets us out of a lot of work, doesn't it? Apathy gets us out of self inquiry. when I'm in pain, I tend to drink too much. And then I end up on the phone drunk dialing my friends so I can talk weird. Though I know they don't like me nearly as much when I'm drinking. Um, and I get on and off that wagon many times. Back on it at the moment. But, I also get on YouTube and just watch like house replays. I just love that show. Um, or, you know, kitchen hacks. That's apathy. When I don't care enough about myself that I just feel sorry about my life or whatever enough that I end up drinking too much. You know, that makes me there's a part of me that desires apathy because then I can just drink and have fun and watch YouTube and not worry about humanity. And then there's a part of me who fears grace because I don't understand it. And I tend to be afraid of stuff I don't understand. And boy, I've been afraid of myself because I don't understand myself. So I've been trying to understand myself. And by understanding myself better, I'm starting to understand grace better. Maybe that'll help, Dakey. Do a square about it. Dig in. And those bursts are really key. I mean, they're happening more and more often, I think. Bursts of pain and joy, and it's really intense times. I don't think you're alone in that either. Good. Yeah, Cheryl relates being born and raised in the military, always moving, and the good piece is that we can adjust pretty easily. Those of us, like many of you who've moved so many times, military or not, and any place I land, I can make it feel like home pretty quick. So I like to discover new things about wherever I'm living, and it's very fun. There can be good stuff about that too. Yeah, good. I'm just continuing to scroll here. You are another me. Michael Myers says, and I won't pretend to be able to pronounce that beautiful saying, Michael, but you are another me. Self empowerment includes everything and everyone. Absolutely that. Thank you, Jennifer. I think if we can laugh at stuff, it's absolutely vital, and I wouldn't be here without my dark sense of humor. Yeah, we got to balance too the giving and receiving piece. Absolutely beautiful. The theory school says they weren't really right. I'm an interdisciplinary theorist, PhD, who was told I could not be a theorist. Yeah, go theorists. Yeah, I think they kind of knew though. My teachers, they were like, "You're gonna do something different," and they didn't want me to be disappointed. I think they knew deep down that I had some other job to do. I know they'd be proud of me now. That makes me very happy to know that. And I still am so much in awe and deep great pride for the work that they accomplished too. So we can celebrate all the good theorists and the folks who ended up being able to get their PhDs too. That's amazing. Maybe one day. Yeah, self-compassion. Elja or Elha says, I started practicing self-compassion. It's the hardest thing to receive, unconditional love for myself. Yeah. So Sarah says, I've gotten in so much trouble for being myself, but the job now is to be myself as fully as I can, which sometimes makes my companions uncomfortable because I'm reaching for the stars. It's true. But I like that it's just sometimes. And other times they miss it. If you're not around being you, they're gonna miss you. I think people do. They miss that sometimes. I'm so glad all of what I've been saying is helping you and that you can relate to it. Eileen said, "Neighbor and I have gotten as far as notes under the door. That's all she's offering right now." That's huge though. That's good. That's good. If that's all it gets to, Eileen, I'm just so glad that it got to that. That's a big difference, right? It's the communication piece, really important. So Erica says, please share your beliefs on those who believe we must activate our third eye through a program versus organically. Well, I have a very strong opinion on this. I think activations of the third eye are a terrible idea. Here's the sort of scenario I see it in. So someone says, "I'll give you a third eye activation." And you go into the gym of the third eye and they hand you a 500-pound weight and they say, "You'll be able to use this 500-pound weight when I'm done with this activation." And they help you and you lift that 500-pound weight maybe once, maybe twice. And then you're like, "Now I'm activated. Now I can totally do this. I can lift 500-pound weights now with my third eye." And the next day, you go back to the gym and you try to do it again and it doesn't work. You can't do it. What just happened? Someone took your power away. They created dependence. They removed something that was put there by you without you being able to fully examine why you put it there in the first place. Or they turned something on, but there was no preparation, no training, no skills, no effort, no work put into it. The third eye is a muscle. In order to be able to bench press 500 pounds every day, you need to start with 10-pound weights. You need to make it fun. You need to be consistent. Third eye activations are old, corrupted, new age, dependency based paradigm stuff that is over. Now it's all about empowerment. So if somebody says they're going to push a freaking button and suddenly now you're going to have your heart field open or your third eye is going to work, this is crap. This is what got all the light workers in trouble for decades. Don't give your power away. Find somebody who's going to teach you how to start out with 10-pound weights and make it fun so that you want to do it every day. And then you get stronger and you do something a little harder, a 25-pound weight. You build up to a 500-pound weight. And by that point, you're so fully empowered, no problem. That's what you should be looking for. You want to open your heart? No one's going to be able to push a button and activation and do that for you, my friends. You want to be fully in your body? You want your field to be clear and permanently so? Then don't let people come in and start taking things out for you. Find the people who will teach you how to do it for yourself. The third eye is a muscle, it's internal and external. You need to have someone show you how to use it write consistently in a fun way that will then give you the strength to continue to build up your skills. This is your inherent birthright, just as it is the fact that you have a head and a brain and opposable thumbs. You have a third eye, you have a heart, you have a gut mind. These are have incredible spiritual skills. Just like your beautiful hands, you can write with a pencil. Just like your beautiful nose can smell, the skill of the third eye is to see internally and externally. You didn't learn how to write with a pencil by somebody pushing a freaking button, did you? You had to learn. You first start with how to hold the pencil, make it a little bit fun. A is for apples. You draw an apple, you learn how to draw an A. Then you start building with letters and sentences and paragraphs and essays until you can freely write anything you want. There is no difference. So activations never work. They just don't. And that's why. Because you're thinking and hoping that someone is going to literally download an entire body of work into you that you have to physically learn how to do every day, a little bit at a time, and do it consistently and build your strength. That's my opinion. And, you know, sometimes people have brains and minds that are wired in a certain way, and seeing internally or externally through imagination doesn't work for them. And that's important. There are people out there like that. I've met a handful in about 10,000 sessions so far. There's been a handful of people who literally cannot imagine anything. It's because of the wiring, and that means that they have something else they need to focus on then. So instead of worrying about that, we go and we feel. Being able to feel the world and the universe is just as good as seeing it. Gets you in less trouble, by the way. I know, because I had my third eye open, but my heart was shut down. Trying to navigate, I got in tons of trouble because I couldn't feel the truth. I saw it, and because I'm a big know it all, I thought, I know what this is because I can see it. That's a load of crap. No, 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 no. You need to have the full body experience to navigate reality. So, really, if you're worried about your third eye, focus on your heart first and then do the third eye. You'll be much safer that way. It's a smarter way. So, let's just keep working towards empowerment, folks. Anyone who creates dependency where you have to keep going back for them to do stuff for you, that's the wrong people to be around. You need people who are going to teach you how to fish. That's the new paradigm. That's how we heal this planet. Good. So like Jen saying, what does it mean? I see nothing when I close my eyes and go within. I used to see vivid stuff, and now all I can get is like a brief snapshot, but mostly it's all black. Jen, it sounds like you're burned out, girl. So you need to just really lay back into the nothing. Fully embrace it. Your body's saying, Jen, we've had really vivid stuff going on for a long time. We need a break. Can we just do nothing for a while? Balance. Honestly, Jen, just really enjoy the nothing. It's really okay. Allow nothing. That's important. Merge with it. And I bet you after a while, you'll start to see more again. Good. So Iona's saying, if you're from a far galaxy, can these different frequencies create health issues in the body and in your life? Well, I mean, depends, right? So if somebody's come in and they remember their past lives from being galactic or from a different galaxy, that's one thing, right? Iona, you still have a human body. Maybe you're walking. Maybe you are hybrid, right? Right now, everybody and all their varieties of beingness are here. And they're all here to learn from the frequency now. If it seems like frequency and the new stuff that's going on is causing problems, then you're on the right track. The problems need to be looked at and sussed out before we can rebuild the planet. So that's why, and it's okay. I would say don't worry about that. Embrace whomever you are right now. Love yourself fully. Embrace the problems showing up. Embrace the health issues. Health issues are never just health issues, they're emotional issues. Look at your emotions very carefully, and you'll discover the truth, the real truth of your health. So dig into that. You're here because this is the right place to be, honey. This is where all the evolution's happening. So embrace what you're going through right now. It's really important. Good. So MS is asking, did I say that if it was a waste of time to look back on your pain? Not exactly. It's a waste of time to look at your past lives right now. Like they'll inform you in a lot of ways, but right now you need to look at your book. And if you haven't fully sussed out your pain, the way that you know you haven't sussed it out is because you keep flipping back in the book, right? And you keep thinking about all that one time recently when somebody said that crappy thing to you, or that horrible heartbreak you had, or that really terrible trauma, right? Here you're reading the book, we're in the moment. In your book, it's like I'm listening to Elizabeth right now. And in my book, it's I'm talking to all these amazing souls right now. But what we tend to do when we have had trauma that we haven't healed is we'll flip back, and you'll find it like it'll be like a little rerun of a memory in your mind, and it hurts, right? That means you haven't processed it. So it's a waste of time for us to keep flipping back and not processing that stuff so that we can stop flipping back. That's more an elaboration of what I meant. And thank you for pointing that out. Because flipping back is a waste of energy. You need to be present, but to do it deliberately is called recapitulation. My teacher, Lucia, actually taught a whole program on recapitulation. It's the best thing she's ever done. Go to her website, LuciaRene.com, LuciaRene.com. That class is amazing. I highly recommend it because it teaches you how to go back very deliberately in your book and comb through it for all the juicy stuff that you need to process so that you stop flipping back and wasting your energy. It keeps you from doing a leaking of energy into the past because then you can get closure and clarity and really understand that trauma. The door gets shut, and then you don't flip back anymore. So then you don't waste your energy and your time flipping back anymore because you've already gone through it really nice and cleanly on purpose, really diligently to gain all that wisdom. And you might need to do it a few times. I certainly have had to, but I know how now. So I can go back very deliberately and say, all right, flipping forward to the first 7 years of my life. Wow, okay, tons of stuff here for me to get through, right? And when we do that, then the pain and the memories, I stop having them show up. I stop flipping back in the book because then it's not drawing my attention and energy away from the moment. So that's a better elaboration on that concept. Thank you for pointing that out. Very important. Good. Lots of love of the quiet and being in the moment, choosing to respond. That's being the self, as Joe says. So, folks are asking, what is their essence? That's such a wonderful question. That is something that can only be done in session, especially when we have a lot of folks on the call like we do today. These kinds of things, to see someone's essence depends on where they're at in their journey. It depends on many, many factors. All that has to be understood and seen and revealed in session. Even a half-hour session can get you closer to understanding that. Um, so I'm sorry, Megan, I won't be able to do that simply because of the nature of our call. But if you've got some time for a half hour, that would be enough for me to get you on the right track. And Wendy Marie says, will intensity have a place in the new frequencies and energies and dimensions with more receptiveness? Oh, yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Intensity is kind of cool. It can reveal a lot. I'm starting to try to embrace my intensity. My friend, he's like, "You're really intense." And he didn't mean it as anything bad at all. I certainly made his day a lot less boring. Let's just say that, right? I don't think there's going to be much room for boredom. Let's just say that. Mona says, I spent my life giving to be loved. It's really sad to think I'm not enough, just me, and it was all to the wrong people. Mona, that's a lot of pain there. And, you know, have a little bit of a mindset swap on this. It wasn't the wrong people. Those were the exact right people because now it's revealing to you how much more you need to give to yourself that they couldn't give you. So that's really interesting. Examine that a little bit deeper. There are no wrong people in our lives, folks. They all have taught us stuff, especially the tyrants. There's no wrong people. The ones that seem to be so problematic, once you orbit away from them, there's a lot of wisdom to be had, and then you don't end up surrounding yourself in more, right? So catching those patterns through recapitulation of your book, of your life, catching those patterns will help you to set yourself up in a position with people who are balanced in their giving and receiving. That's what we're shooting for, balance. Asymmetry makes the universe go round, folks. If everything was perfectly balanced, we wouldn't be talking right now. Asymmetry makes the universe function. Asymmetry is precious. It's a very strange but interesting thing. Good. So someone does blessed be the best, but blessed by the best. Oh, that's a cool moniker. Agrees about opening the third eye. Um, that it would cause them to see too much too quickly. That's if it worked at all, right? Or maybe you get this burst of sight, but it's traumatic, and then that's really going to shut your third eye down. So remember what I said, small stuff that's fun and consistent. That's a better way to get that muscle strong. Good. Yeah, Wendy Marie's like, I don't imagine stuff. Yeah, that's totally okay. Then feel it, my dear. Feel it. Feel it. Work on feeling. That might be why right now. Maybe you were a seer in a different life and you did a lot of seeing and not enough feeling, and now it's time to feel and not see. It's okay. Yeah. Good. Christine, Christina Ann says dealing with fears in the dreamscape is much easier than real world fears in which I have less control. What are your thoughts on dealing with the lack of control over what's going on? Well, I would do a square on that one, right? Control versus lack of control. How do you fear control? How do you fear having so much control? All of us have some fear around having control. How do you fear? How do you desire to have control? There's a lot of that too. How do you fear being out of control? And how do you desire to be out of control? That last one, the desire to be out of control, to not have control, the desire of that is what we're all looking at on this planet right now. Hasn't it been so convenient to have technology do things for you? Well, all that desire to not have control for convenience sake has caused a lot of apathy, hasn't it? A lot of illness, a lot of disconnect. And now we're finding ourselves swinging to the other side of the polarity and saying, wait, I want my control back. Good. Then work with cash, get your assets in hand, get to know your neighbors, find out who grows your food, talk to your farmers, get to know your local governance, support the people who understand that organic living society and culture that's not automatic, robotic, or cyborgic or AI or any of that, you know, really look at that. There's a nice happy medium. You might not be able to control how your food's grown, but if you tell the farmers that you know grow the food what you really want and what you're quite willing to buy, they're going to listen. And if it might not be that you're in control of the governance and legislature, but by golly, you have a vote and your voice counts. Those folks are required to listen to you. And any door slamming in your face means that they are not the right people. So get to the local organic human level that's beyond the level of control we've relinquished to the internet, to the technology world. Get back to nature. And you'll find that you have creator being status and that nature will work with you and that there's a balance of control and lack of control that's very precious that nature provides, not corrupt human culture. So we're trying to get our natural human culture back where we value both the lack of control we have over nature and yet the control we have as creators of culture. That's where we're headed. So just get organic, guys, gals, everyone. Wow. Talking of nature, I had this little cup of coffee, and you can't see it because they're teeny tiny, but it's completely full of ants. There you go. There's an example. I am now relinquishing my control of my coffee over to the ants. They tasted the coconut and the caffeine because I had put coconut milk, and there you go. There's a good example. Sometimes we just have to let nature do its thing, and we don't have control over that. But you're a creator. There's a lot of things you can do. Focus on that. It's the material world. That's the key. Is to be in love with the natural, material, dimensional world around you right now. That's key. All right, good. Let's do our meditation. And just a few moments and then I'll leave you in a nice high state. It was a really good call. Thank you. I was really emotional beforehand and I was like, oh no, I'm going to totally cry, which is fine because I have before. Um, but I find that your presence gives me so much strength and I don't feel so lost. I don't feel so alone with these calls. I hope that you feel the same. I hope you feel supported. I hope you feel believed and loved and seen and heard. I do. Thank you. Thank you. What a precious thing we can give each other on these calls. All right. So I want to help you to really enjoy this energy right now that's available through a meditation. And we're going to do this meditation piece, I think, most necessarily on the three minds. Because each of the three minds, I might have had a different idea earlier, but right now that's what's coming up. So the three minds, the three Dantian centers, which is the whole head from the collarbone up. This is the first Dantian center. It includes all the skills of your head, right? The third eye, the crown, all your senses, the throat is included in the upper Dantian. But at the center of it, which happens to be the third eye, is what's called the cave of Brahma. But the cave of Brahma exists at the center of each Dantian. And we're going to open that cave and we're going to fill it with light, the light of your own essence. You don't need to know what your essence is, you just need to feel it. And we're going to open that and we're going to fill it with your own essence so you can just feel being you right now in your body. And we're going to open up each cave. The center of the heart space is also another cave of Brahma. And then the center of the gut, which is just below the navel, is also another cave of Brahma. And we can fill our essence in all three of these and be in a state of very deep, precious, open energetics where you feel truly yourself, right? And that's what I want for you today. And just be ourselves. It's the only thing you are asked to do right now. All right. So, first, we're going to start with the third eye. And I just want you to allow your consciousness to go through from the third eye, and you don't have to see anything. Okay? Go into the third eye, but go to the center of your head. Just put your perception there. Just feel it. Feel the center of your head. And take a deep breath. Imagine there's a little cave there that you can sit in. Again, you don't have to see it. I just want you to feel it surrounding you, that you're sitting in a cave. Notice how it feels. Is it dark, cold, damp, musty? Is it bright? Is it sparkly? Does it feel warm or freezing cold? There's no wrong way for it to be. How does it feel? And now I want you to imagine and feel the light of your essence. And we want to say it together. So say it with me out loud. Dear heart, fill my third eye with the light of my essence now. And take a deep breath. Now, if you're able to imagine that light, notice the quality of it. How does it feel? What's its temperature? Does it have a color? If you're only able to feel right now, Just feel the difference from before and now. You asking to feel your own essence. What it should do is cause you to feel very calm, very still, and not need to do anything. So just allow that right now. Allow your mind and your third eye to be calm and still and just be you. Take another deep breath. Now move your consciousness to the heart space, the center space dantian, the second dantian. Allow there to be another cave in your heart space. Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's smaller. Notice the size difference. How does this cave feel? And now we'll do the same. Dear heart, please fill the cave of my heart space with my own essence now. And take a deep breath. Again, just feel that peace. There's nothing to do except just be you. There's nothing to see. Just feel being you right now in your heart. Let the light of the third eye and the heart space merge. Take another deep breath. And put your consciousness just below the navel into the third cave, the lower Dantian cave. And notice that. How does that one feel? Does it feel different than the other two did? And one last time. Dear heart, please fill my lower Dantian cave of Brahman with my essence now. And take another deep breath. Notice how it changes. Be very still. Just be you, fully in your body. And allow the light of this cave to merge with the heart and the third eye into a state of one light in your whole body. Take a deep breath. I am my own light. I am me. I am a unique frequency. I allow. I allow myself to be me. Feel yourself observing your state without preference. The great observer. Observe yourself and the body and the soul being one. And another deep breath to end. Good. I leave you with this, my friends. Enjoy being you. Enjoy being your special frequency. And we'll meet again in April, towards the end, and I'll let you know. I sure love you and appreciate you. Thanks for your love and kindness. Thanks for being here with me today. Meet me on Indra's Net. Next time we'll do a meditation on that. But I think we needed to be fully in our bodies and ourselves, and then we can meet on Indra's Net next time. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.